The year was 1994. Garry Kasparov, sitting atop the throne of world chess after beating Nigel Short the year before, seemingly had no challenges to his throne until he faced the young 18-year-old Vladimir Kramnik in Linares tournament, where Kramnik beat him. Kasparov, looking for revenge, played him soon after in some rapid games in Moscow, and after the first game ended in a draw, he faced Kramnik in our game today, where Kramnik unleashed four brilliant moves in a wonderful game to stun Kasparov and showed him that there's a new kid on the block. Let's have a look at our game. So this is one of the most extraordinary games that you will see. So let's see if we can find the four brilliant moves before they happen on the board. But the game began with Kramnik playing with the white pieces, playing knight f3, knight f6 by Kasparov. We had c4, g6, knight to c3, bishop to g7, and we get King's Indian defense, e4, d6, d4, castles by Kasparov, bishop to e2, we get e5 by Kasparov, Kramnik then pushing d5, gaining some space in the middle, and we get knight to d7, bishop to e3, and knight to g4. The reason there that he wants to attack this bishop is because if you play something like the knight here to try and capture this pawn, well then you can play back your knight to d2, protecting this pawn, and also you haven't castled yet with the king, so you could long castle if you want, and we see what Kramnik does. But in the game we get knight g4 to attack this bishop, then we get bishop to g5, and here Kramnik, he's got a crafty plan. Kasparov has got a lovely defensive pawn structure around his king, but he wants to tempt him forward, and we'll see how important this ply was later in the game. So Kasparov plays f6, Kramnik drops back, then we get h5, we get knight to d2, knight to h6, and f3, stopping the knight from coming forward, but also giving Kramnik a space for his bishop to come back to. Then we get knight to f7, queen to c2, bishop to h6, and we get long castle by Kramnik here. c5 by Kasparov, d takes c5 or c6, and b takes. So here we have Kasparov. He's got control of the center, 3 pawns to Kramnik's 2. Also, he's got an open file here on the b file to attack towards the king. So is Kramnik, does he know what he's doing? Well, let's see. We get king to b1. We get a5 by Kasparov. Knight to a4. We get c5, giving a nice grabbing square here. A nice little outpost maybe for one of these knights or the bishop if he can get in there. And indeed, that's what happens. We get knight to c3, bishop to e3 with the idea of jumping onto that d4 square, and then of course Kramnik was aware of this by playing knight to b3, attacking this bishop now and trying to stop it. So we get a very interesting, very complex game. This is a rapid game, but we're going to see the fireworks are coming. We get bishop to b7, and after knight takes, c takes, f4. Now Kramnik's like, right, now's the time. Let's go for it. f4, attacking. Crafty little plans here, of course, trying to take this pawn. If you take this pawn, you know, you're weakening this pawn here. You're also opening up files for the rooks to come later on. We get rook to b8, rook to h to f1, knight to h6 by Kasparov, and we get c5. Now, c5 is a crafty move. Of course, if you can weaken this pawn, that means you can take this pawn, and you can't capture back with this pawn because it is pinned to the queen. Then we get bishop to takes d5, we get e takes d5, and knight to f5, attacking our bishop. And here we go. Here is Kramnik's first brilliant move of the game. Can you find it? What is the brilliant move on the board? Can you see it? Well, you might see that there's a piece hanging. So what does that mean? Well, Kramnik plays pawn to e5, hanging his bishop. What's the big idea? Well, let's say you take here with the knight. The whole idea is Kramnik saying, I'm going to take with the rook, and after pawn takes and c6, you've got a pass pawn with a lovely grip on 2 squares on the 7th file, and that's a really beautiful position. So in the game after this, we saw that Kramnik gives up the piece, and Kasparov says, I'm going to take it. So we get e takes d6. So we see Kramnik's down a piece, but he's got really great compensation with 3 pawns right moving towards the promotion square. So we get knight to e5 by Kasparov, rook takes d4, and then knight to f5. So you're attacking the rook, but you're also threatening to jump into e3 to fork both the queen and this rook on f1. And here we see our second brilliant move by Kramnik. Can you find it? I'll give you a few seconds. Second brilliant move by Kramnik is rook to f5. And after g takes f5 and queen takes f5, we get king to g7 here by Kasparov. This game is still well within the realms of a balanced game. But here we see Kramnik takes the pawn, bishop to h5. Now this knight is very nicely placed, stopping the queen from infiltrating, but here Kasparov plays a terrible move. What would you play here? It's a move I would probably play if I'm being truthful, if I was thinking about it, and he plays rook to h8, seemingly attacking, but the best move here was to in fact play your rook to here and you'd still have a chance. Why is that? Because rook to h8 enables Kramnik to play yet another brilliant move. Can you find the third brilliant move that 18-year-old Vladimir Kramnik unleashed upon Garry Kasparov? Well, the third brilliant move is rather wonderful. Rook to g4 check. Hanging the rook for the knight, if you like, not really hanging, but giving up the exchange. But it is hanging because if you take it, it's going to be checkmate. So really beautiful move by Vladimir Kramnik. Kasparov realizing now he's in big trouble against his young upstart who's already beaten him just recently. So he drops back with the king to king f8. And here Kramnik plays his fourth and final brilliant move of the game. Can you find it? What's the brilliant move here? The brilliant move is the rather wonderful queen to e6. Brilliant move. Again, giving up the bishop, but you can't take it because it would be checkmate. And not only that, you can't take the bishop because if you take the bishop, you get the rather wonderful rook to g8 checkmate. So in the game, we get, after this brilliant move, we get rook to b7 by Kramnik, we get c6, and then we get rook to b2 check by Garry Kasparov. Unbelievable stuff we're seeing on the board. But the reason is if for some reason you decided to, if for some reason you decided, I'm going back over the moves here, in this position, if you decided to take the rook now because the mate is stopped, well, that doesn't matter because what you do is take the rook and after knight to e5, queen to e7, after queen takes and you're promoting queen to d8 blocks, we get g7, queen to e7, king to h6, and then queen to f6, and this is all over, red over, as we say. So this is one of the reasons Kasparov decides to give up the rook, but the reason he's doing it is to draw the king out without his protection, and he's looking desperately here to try and either get a mate or to get a draw out of this game. But Kramnik has all of this figured out because after queen to c5 check, king to a4, of course, he can't checkmate yet because of the rook. So this is all part of Kasparov's plan. We get c2, b5, b2 check, king to a6, queen to e2 check, and after king to b7 and rook to h7, Kramnik with the final nail in the coffin plays d7, and here Kasparov realizes there is nothing he can do, and Kramnik unleashed a glorious victory here with 4 brilliant moves. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if you did.